The rain hammered against the windows of our small cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years, Elian and I had built a life here, a quiet, predictable existence filled with Sunday roasts, gardening, and the comforting rhythm of our routines. Remy, a software engineer, found solace in the logic of code, in the clean, unambiguous lines that defined my professional world. Elian, with her artistic soul, brought color and vibrancy to our home, filling it with her paintings and the scent of lavender from her ever-expanding garden. Or so I thought. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Elian, always a social butterfly, began spending more time at the gallery, a local art space where she volunteered. Late nights became more frequent, her explanations increasingly vague. "Just helping with an exhibition, Remy," she'd say, her eyes flitting away from mine. I dismissed it, attributing it to her passion, her unwavering dedication to art. I was a fool. The first real crack appeared on our anniversary. 20 years. I had planned a surprise weekend getaway to a charming little inn nestled in the Lake District, a place we had always dreamed of visiting. I booked a room with a view of the lake, arranged for a private dinner, and even managed to snag tickets to a local theater performance. I presented her with a framed photograph of us from our wedding day, a reminder of our enduring love. She smiled, a strained, almost pained expression on her face. "Oh, Remy, that's lovely," she said, her voice lacking its usual warmth. "But I can't. I have a gallery opening. It's important." My heart sank. The gallery opening, of course. "But Elian, it's our anniversary," I protested, my voice barely a whisper. "Couldn't someone else cover it?" She sighed, a long, exasperated sigh that made me feel like I was burdening her. "Remy, you know how much this means to me," she said, her tone sharp. "I can't just abandon my responsibilities." The weekend getaway was canceled. I spent our anniversary alone, staring at the rain-streaked windows, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. The next few weeks were a blur of unanswered questions and growing suspicion. Elian's phone became her constant companion, her fingers dancing across the screen, her eyes glued to its glowing surface. She'd flinch when I entered the room, quickly turning it off, a guilty flush rising on her cheeks. I tried to talk to her, to ask her what was wrong, but she'd brush me off, dismissing my concerns with a wave of her hand. "You're being paranoid, Remy," she'd say. "Everything is fine." But everything wasn't fine. I could feel it, a palpable tension that hung in the air between us. My friend Torin, a gruff but loyal mechanic with a knack for observation, noticed my distress. "You look like you've seen a ghost, mate," he said one afternoon as I nursed a pint at our local pub, the King's Head. I hesitated, unsure if I should confide in him, but the loneliness was suffocating me. I told him about Elian's late nights, her secretive phone calls, her sudden disinterest in our life together. Torin listened patiently, his brow furrowed in concern. "Sounds dodgy, Remy," he said finally. "You need to find out what's going on." His words spurred me into action. I knew I had to confront Elian, but I needed proof, something concrete to shatter her carefully constructed facade. I started subtly, paying closer attention to her comings and goings. I noticed she was always meticulously dressed, her makeup perfectly applied, even for a quick trip to the gallery. She started wearing a new perfume, a scent I didn't recognize, a musky, almost overpowering fragrance that clung to her clothes. One evening, as she was getting ready to leave, I casually asked her who else would be at the gallery opening. She rattled off a list of names, none of which I recognized. "Just the usual art crowd," she said, her voice a little too casual. That night after she left, I did something I never thought I was capable of. I went through her phone. I know it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I was desperate. The password was easy enough to guess: our wedding date. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through her messages. Most were innocuous, mundane conversations with friends and colleagues. But then I saw it. A series of messages with a contact saved as Gareth. The messages were sickeningly sweet, filled with flirtatious banter and veiled innuendo. "Can't wait to see you tonight, darling," one message read. "The gallery is going to be so much more interesting with you there." Another message, sent just hours before our anniversary, said, "Don't worry about Remy, he'll be fine, I need you more." The blood drained from my face. Gareth. Who the hell was Gareth? I did a quick search online and found him. Gareth Sterling, a local artist known for his abstract sculptures. He was handsome, charismatic, and everything I wasn't. A wave of nausea washed over me. Elian was having an affair with Gareth Sterling. The realization hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. My world, the world I had carefully built over 20 years, crumbled around me. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, replaying the messages in my head, each word a fresh stab wound. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think. The woman I loved, the woman I had dedicated my life to, had betrayed me in the most profound way possible. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of despair. The next morning, Elian returned home, her face flushed, her eyes sparkling. "Did you have a good night?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. She smiled, a radiant, almost triumphant smile. "It was wonderful, Remy," she said. "The gallery opening was a huge success." I wanted to scream, to lash out, to tear her world apart, but I held back. I needed to be strategic. I needed to find out the full extent of her betrayal. I decided to play along, to pretend that I knew nothing. I acted as if everything was normal, showering her with affection, asking about her day, listening to her stories with feigned interest. It was excruciating, but I knew it was necessary. I needed to gather more evidence to build a case against her. Over the next few days, I continued to monitor her phone, uncovering a web of lies and deceit. They were planning a weekend getaway to Paris, a romantic rendezvous in the city of love. They were talking about leaving me, about starting a new life together. The pain was almost unbearable, but I refused to break. I channeled my anger, my hurt, my despair into a burning desire for revenge. I confided in Torrin again, telling him everything I had discovered. He was furious, his face red with rage. "That bloody cow," he roared. "I always knew she was trouble." He offered to help me, to do whatever it took to make her pay. I hesitated. I didn't want to involve him in my mess, but I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed his help, his strength, his unwavering loyalty. Together we hatched a plan. It was risky, audacious, and potentially devastating, but it was the only way to expose Elian's betrayal and reclaim my life. I decided to confront her in public, to shatter her carefully crafted image in front of everyone she knew. I chose the gallery opening, the very place where her affair had blossomed. I knew Gareth would be there, basking in her attention, reveling in his triumph. The night of the gallery opening arrived, and I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I was no longer the heartbroken, betrayed husband. I was a man on a mission, determined to expose the truth, no matter the cost. I dressed in my best suit, the one I had worn on our wedding day. I wanted Elian to see what she was throwing away. As I walked into the gallery, the room fell silent. All eyes were on me. Elian stood near the entrance, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. Gareth stood beside her, his arm possessively wrapped around her waist. I walked straight towards them, my gaze fixed on Elian. "Remy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" I ignored her and addressed the crowd. "I have something to say," I announced, my voice clear and strong. "Something that everyone here needs to know." I paused, letting the silence build. "My wife, Elian, has been having an affair with Gareth Sterling." A collective gasp swept through the room. Elian's face crumpled, her eyes filled with tears. Gareth's jaw dropped, his face turning ashen. I pulled out my phone and displayed the messages, projecting them onto a large screen. The room was filled with the sound of gasps and whispers as people read the evidence of Elian's betrayal. I watched as her world crumbled around her, her reputation tarnished, her lies exposed. "I loved you, Elian," I said, my voice filled with pain. "I gave you everything, and you repaid me with lies and deceit." I turned to Gareth. "And you," I said, my voice dripping with contempt. "You're nothing but a pathetic opportunist preying on a married woman." I walked out of the gallery, leaving Elian and Gareth to face the consequences of their actions. I didn't look back. I knew my life would never be the same, but I also knew that I had done the right thing. I had exposed the truth, reclaimed my dignity, and taken back control of my life. The fallout was swift and brutal. Elian was ostracized by her friends and colleagues. Her reputation as an artist was ruined. Gareth's career suffered a similar fate. Their affair, once a source of excitement and passion, quickly turned sour. They blamed each other for their downfall, their relationship dissolving into bitterness and resentment. I filed for divorce and the proceedings were quick and painless. Elian didn't contest anything. She knew she had no leg to stand on. I sold the cottage in the Cotswolds, the place that held so many memories, both good and bad. I needed a fresh start, a clean break from the past. I moved to London, a city I had always dreamed of living in. I found a new job, a new apartment, and a new lease on life. I started painting again, something I had neglected for years. I found solace in the creative process, expressing my emotions through color and form. It wasn't easy. The pain of Elian's betrayal lingered, a dull ache in my heart, but I refused to let it define me. I focused on rebuilding my life, on finding happiness again. I surrounded myself with supportive friends, people who loved and cared for me. One evening, as I was exhibiting my paintings at a small gallery in Shoreditch, I met a woman named Bront. She was kind, intelligent, and beautiful, with a warm smile that lit up her face. We talked for hours, sharing our stories, our dreams, our fears. I felt a connection with her, a sense of belonging that I hadn't felt in years. We started dating and our relationship blossomed quickly. Bront was everything Elian wasn't: honest, loyal, and supportive. She loved me for who I was, flaws and all. She helped me heal, to move on from the past and to embrace the future. 1 year later, Bront and I got married. It was a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by our closest friends and family. As I looked into her eyes, I knew I had found my soulmate, the woman I was meant to spend the rest of my life with. Elian, on the other hand, never recovered. She bounced from one failed relationship to another, her life spiraling out of control. She became a recluse, haunted by her past mistakes. I heard through mutual friends that she often spoke of me, regretting her actions, wishing she could turn back time. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I couldn't forgive her. The pain she had inflicted on me was too deep, the betrayal too profound. I had moved on, found happiness again. She had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. My story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of forgiveness, and to the possibility of finding love again, even after the most devastating betrayal. It's a story of heartbreak, revenge, and ultimately, redemption.